Everyone, welcome to another edition of Founder Wisdom Podcast. Today with us we have Dean Sanderson. He is the founder of Dean Sanderson Wedding Photography. So he's a top photographer, and it's a physical edition of the podcast. I'm not used to those. We often do them online, so it was quite a setup today, like at least 10 to 15 minutes to find this place, and then another 10 to 15 for the equipment setup. But I'm glad to have you here, Dean. Today we're gonna talk about a lot of interesting stuff. So yeah, maybe introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us what you do, and we'll take it from there.
My name is Dean Sanderson. I'm a photographer, originally from Canada. I moved to Mexico nearly 10 years ago. Shoot, photograph mostly weddings. We have, well, now post-COVID, we have two photographers, two videographers, essentially different crews, full-time retoucher. It's an interesting time for the business because we're just getting going onto like almost a regeneration because COVID turned everything upside down and stopped it. So
Yeah, yeah.
interesting time.
Since how much time have you been doing photography, and since how much time have you been doing photography in Mexico, in Cancun?
I was doing photography about 7 or 8 years before I got here. So I would say all told about 18, 20 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
18, 20 years. Why did you come to Cancun, Mexico?
I just started coming down because the weather was better. I was living in Toronto. I was trying to do commercial work up there.
Okay.
To be frank, I wasn't being very successful,
Hmm.
and I was getting the odd wedding here. So I decided that why don't I stay here and I'll go up for the commercial work, start promoting myself more here. I saw a segment of the market that wasn't being helped, and saw what customers wanted and built a business around that.
Pretty cool. And let's say so 5 to 7 years in Mexico, is that right? In Cancun?
Closer to 7 to 10.
7 to 10. So how is Cancun different from the Canadian landscape in terms of business?
When I was doing wedding photography, I was mostly in Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah.
So in Vancouver, two big things. One, the season is a lot shorter. In Vancouver, we're looking at 4 months, 5 months.
Okay.
Here, we're looking at 10 to 12. Well, 10 to 11. It's almost 12 now, but we do have some slow times. We have Christmas, pretty much nothing, stuff like that. So, yeah, we're probably around 10 months a year we're shooting. So it's a lot more active, a lot longer time. So that's one of the big things. And two, it's not all weekends. We have the odd weekday shoot. And it's just different challenges. It's it's a completely different country.
And like I saw a couple of weddings on the beaches here. I saw some baby showers. I mean, Cancun seems to be like a place that people celebrate these types of events. Does that mean more business or more competition? How's the landscape here?
Means both. But it was like that in Vancouver. I think, there's photography. It's one of those things that a lot of people want to do. And they aspire to do it and they love it. So they want to try to make a business out of it. So you have a lot of competition in that amateur, pro-amateur sort of range. And then other people who really want to do it and starting to do business and just don't know how to do business. And they can sometimes be complicated competition because they uneducate the clients, essentially, which can be challenging. And then we have a lot of just competition. Not to mention down here we have different regulations and rules and resorts and what they will allow and what they will not allow. And so every year we get new surprises, but we also get a larger market every year because there's 3 new resorts every year, it seems.
Wow.
So it's busy.
I didn't know that Cancun was still growing in terms of tourism. I think well, in my mind, my parents have celebrated their honeymoon in Cancun. And I thought that Cancun had its high days at that time. Maybe Tulum was a bit in terms of development, in terms of tourism. I think Tulum is growing right now. Is Cancun still growing as much nowadays?
I wouldn't be the one really to know to ask. I can only know that it's two statistics that I know of, which is one, Cancun airport, which would include people flying in from Tulum, has grown about 10% per year
Okay.
for the last 10 years, which is incredible compound growth.
Yeah.
And the number of hotel rooms in Cancun in the last 5 years, I think there was a calculation, someone told me around 8,000 more,
Wow.
not more. I
That's
think that's a very minor estimate. There's a whole new, in the last 5 years, they put in a whole new hotel zone to the north.
Yeah, and we see new condo growth here. The place that we are right now, Marina Puerto Cancun, is growing. So I think it's people that are staying more long term and less like tourists, for example. So that's pretty cool. I can see that growing. An important stat as well has been that since COVID, Mexico is one of the only country that allowed people in without that much restrictions. So I think that has helped you for sure. In the whole world, touristically during COVID, Mexico has been the country that has had the most tourism. So, I mean that's pretty cool. In terms of the competition, yes, there's a lot of people here that do photography. How does your business distinguish itself from the others?
I think we do something specific. We do lifestyle imagery,
Okay.
and I think that that creating a niche and sticking with a niche is it's important unless you have very deep pockets and you go for a very big market, then that's it. And in the wedding photography business, wedding photography itself is a niche. So you're a niche within a niche within a niche type of thing. And I think that the more you specialize, the more the customer knows what you do, the more you can charge for that product or service. And I think that goes with every business. I don't think it's solely in photography.
Niching is the way. Like just today, I was talking with employees of my business. I do cold email, for example, for B2B, right? And I want to niche down in crypto. So if I niche down in crypto, for example, that places me with like 5 competitors worldwide.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. In terms of Cancun, yeah. So let's say that there's probably 10, 20 other wedding photographers, 30, 40. What's the scale here?
Other wedding photographers
Yeah.
here? Yeah, you can add zeros.
How much?
At least 400, 500.
Holy shit. I didn't know that. And then if you niche down in lifestyle, I mean, you're pretty much like
Yeah.
5 or 10.
Yeah, it depends. See, there's probably about 7 or 8 of us doing it well,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, doing it well. Quality.
Because there's, like say, and then there's the others.
Interesting.
No, the competition here is, it's not minor.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing too is we're dealing often with a client who's their first wedding for the most part, and even if it's their second. If it's their second, it's the second time usually they're hiring a photographer, so they really don't know what they're doing until they get educated.
Yeah.
But and you educate somebody by discovering what they want,
Mm.
and it's through that process of discovery that you learn whether or not you're a fit or not a fit. And I think that's ultimately what my aim in my business is to find clients who are ready to get married, make the decision to buy the product that I sell, and then get them into a discovery situation where we can discover what they want. And if what they want and what I do match, then I ask them to sign a contract.
Okay. So is that how it works? Do you invite them to a restaurant and you chat with them? How does the demo and discovery session works?
All my clients are from UK, Canada, or the US.
Okay. How do they discover you in first place?
Via email,
Yeah.
via not email, but via the website.
SEO, search engine,
Yeah,
Google.
Yeah, and we run some ads as well.
Okay.
And through that, we try to educate them on what we do.
Okay.
I do have 2 other photographers who do slightly different things, because the thing is the other thing I believe in is authenticity within the market, and it's something because before I had another photographer who did lifestyle like myself, and we could sell the same thing using 2 different people depending on who was available. And now, being that I can't find that other person, we're going to a different model of they shoot a little different. So I said, tell them these other options are available, and it works. So to answer your question, we find them, through advertising, social media, and SEO essentially.
Facebook ads, Insta ads, you do a lot of that or mostly Google?
Probably Google would be more than the Facebook and
Okay.
Instagram ads, but I think it's all important. You have to be careful with your advertising dollars.
Yeah, I'm just curious on the keywords you advertise for wedding photography in Cancun, or because you said in UK, right, and in Canada, or do you go for expensive keywords such as wedding photography, which must cost a ton in Canada or US.
The thing is that if you go for non-specific, especially in this market, what happens is it's actually probably easier to describe on Facebook. So Facebook, if you're a photographer in Chicago, you can easily advertise to newly engaged people in Chicago about wedding photography. It makes sense. But if I target newly engaged people in Chicago for wedding photography, only 1% of them are going to have a destination wedding in Cancun.
Exactly.
So it's incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
So, and nonsensical. So that's why I say you do need to be strategic and understanding about your SEO, and to be honest, that is complicated enough that I have a full-time consultant on it.
100% understood. I'm thinking, wedding photography abroad, for example, because they still haven't chosen their destination, but they know they want a beach, for example.
Yeah, and then you still have to be careful where you're, in this case, I guess, potential client, like where they are in the process psychologically,
Okay.
Because you just have to watch where they are in the adopting cycle and what you're going to do with them from
Because,
that perspective.
in my opinion, since Mexico has been one of the only countries opening his border during COVID, that's about to change. Am I wrong in saying that this was an opportunity in the last 2 years? Since it's one of the only country that has opened its border, I want my wedding at the beach. I'm tired of this environment, wearing a mask, and being stuck in my condo in Canada. Let's say I want to get out. Was there an opportunity during those 2 years since you were in Mexico?
Actually, no, the opposite.
The opposite.
So
What happened?
what
during COVID?
happened here during COVID, well, it all closed down. When it opened up, the tour companies, private tour companies, were slammed.
Oh yeah, I know that.
But destination weddings is about asking all of your family members to get on a plane and go somewhere.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you're not going to get it happening. Only now are we starting to see a turnaround.
Okay.
But with that said, it was a weird year in 2021.
Okay.
I didn't shoot. I shot probably at 25%, 30% level normal.
Okay.
But we would have weddings of 20 people, and we would have weddings of 120 people.
120.
Because either you got a group of people who friends didn't want to come because it was COVID, or you got the friends who were like, yeah, I just want to get out of the country. You're giving me an excuse. I'm in.
Yeah.
And those people all showed up to weddings,
Okay.
and you would end up with 120. So you can imagine friends have like friends. So when
Word of mouth for you.
well, no, yeah, no, I mean, no, what I mean is like
The scale.
from the COVID perspective, right?
Yeah.
So people who were happy to travel and weren't worried about COVID would have friends that were like that, and they would end up with these huge weddings, and they'd be complaining to me saying, my wedding suddenly blew up to 150 people and I can't get anybody, and people still want to keep coming.
Is that more work for you? More complicated if more
It's a
people
bit
show
more
up?
complicated, but it's not horrible. It's not that bad.
Do you have upsells? Like, could you make more money? Let's say if you sell them a wedding, how much should I pay you? Let's say if I hire you for my wedding, which is in a year, how much should I pay you?
Somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 for photography only.
Okay.
For videography, you're looking at somewhere $3,000 to $4,000 is my price point. Give or
Which
take.
is fine.
Yeah, and
Canadian or USD?
then US dollars.
Okay. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Do you have ways to upsell people? Let's say we're at the wedding, and because, for example, okay, I told you that I do Ironmans, and a business that has been kind of getting my attention for the wrong reasons is I forgot the name, but they take your pictures at Ironmans, right?
Yeah.
And they sell it afterwards, and they charge ridiculous price, like 100 USD for like 3 images, and they don't even deliver the full thing. Their AI technology doesn't identify my face well, and so forth. I forgot their name. I won't call them out, but I think it's a fascinating business because in Cozumel there's 2,000 people. 100, it starts at 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's like 200K right there, and then with the upsells they can easily go at 2 million per event. So I'm wondering if you had this kind of package in which you could take pictures of people during the wedding and ask them, or that doesn't make any sense because the owner pays for everything and everyone gets their pictures.
Yeah, I think what you're describing doesn't sound very luxurious.
Doesn't sound luxurious,
and-
but it sounds profitable as a business owner.
Yeah, and we provide a luxury experience. So a luxury experience isn't one where you're going to get nailed with costs afterwards.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I think a luxury experience is one where you paid and you don't have to
yeah,
worry about more. Um, and there isn't really an opportunity for that because we should be taking those photos anyhow, in my opinion. I don't think we should. I think if we want to upsell on people, we could work with products like wedding albums or prints for their walls or fine art stuff, rather than trying to go for, charging people $100 because they were dancing at a wedding. You know.
yeah. Well, I mean, I could foresee something like that because it kind of leads to my next question, which is the trend of TikTok and Instagram, and everyone wants their stories and their photos on their Insta profile. Have you seen this lately in your business, and how have you integrated it in your business? Do you also provide digital format optimized for Instagram profiles of people? How has this changed in the digital years?
It's changed a lot. We don't necessarily offer an optimized one, but the photos that we do, they kind of are correctly done because we know the people are going to put where they're going to put them. So we just make them a decent size, make them make sense. So there's that. And then, so I guess we kind of do. Yeah. And it's ever changing in the digital world, to be honest with you. Like it's one of those things. It's like TikTok is one that I've tried to stay away from, but we do. We're looking into I'm looking into creating more reels and figuring out how to, create those products. Um, the one thing that has changed a lot is we've gone from having our videos be 3 to 5 minutes at the very shortest to now people want a 30 to 60-second video
Okay,
of their wedding.
which
Yeah.
is like a real kind of a
Yeah,
compilation of the
it's
whole
like
thing.
it's a reel of their wedding. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, they want to show that to their children's. Like my parents now, at the age that I'm at, I want to see their wedding pictures and see like how it has been. I guess that's part of the experience, and the way you describe your business is like lifestyle. So it's in the moment. I've read on your website, and that's also my philosophy with pictures. It's not about looking at the camera and smiling anymore. It's just catching the moment.
Yeah.
How hard is it to catch that moment?
I don't think it's that difficult, but when I try to get other people to do it, apparently it is.
Well, that's called a superpower, my friend.
I don't know if it's a superpower, but
How do you do it?
it's frustrating when people aren't doing it properly. But I don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you, because there's like I always say it's that French term, the je ne sais quoi of a photo. You just don't know how to describe why it is that this photo is perfect, and there are technical reasons, converging lines, all the, triangles, all these different like technical reasons you can describe a photograph. And once you know those and practice those regularly, they become innate. But then there's always a photo where the expression and everything is perfect, and it breaks one or two rules, and it's always amazing because it's almost like a photograph that follows all of the rules almost turns a little dead, even when it's amazing. But one that just has to break one rule or something where you're like, oh, it's all perfect, and then you're like, this is not working technically, but you look at the photograph and everybody loves it. That's the thing too, is like a great photograph doesn't really need to be described. People know it when they see it. The problem is that it's about not everyone has a discerning eye. So there's other people who will say like, I think this is a great photograph, and other people will come down to here and say everything from here up is a great photograph,
Okay.
right? So, but I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't
I
know.
guess it's experience, and I guess what you're talking about is mastery. So let's say in my field, cold email copywriting,
Yeah.
I'm at the stage which I break rules right now, and people love it, because I mastered all the rules of the previous best copywriters there is. Like I guess that's part of it, to need to break something and reinvent it once you're at some level. I'm curious, as per like when I copyright, I have my specific state that I get in, and I don't write good until I'm probably 300 or 1,000 words in. And then I get in this semi-flow state. I consume caffeine as well to get me in that state. Do you get in a flow state yourself once you are at a wedding? Do you have a specific recipe to get in that state?
No, it's funny because see, what you're describing is controlling your environment. At a wedding, I'm not in control of the environment per se. I still take control. But yeah, there's a little something I do in my head when I'm taking photographs, and it's about just having a sense of gratitude, and then things start to flow.
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
what things are you great? Because there's multiple gratitude techniques. Is it just like I feel the air on my skin? I'm at the beach. I'm with beautiful people. I'm doing what I love.
Sometimes there's not enough air on the skin. like yesterday, it was just really hot.
Yeah.
Really, because I put them in the shade and I stand in the sun, so it's very hot for me. But no, it's just grateful for what I'm doing. Just I don't know how to describe it.
Well, I mean,
It's just something that I do. It's just a feeling I have. This is a feeling I try to express. And then I try to read the people, and everybody needs something different. And that's one of the nice things about wedding photography is that no 2 days are really the same, because even if you photograph a wedding at the same resort in the same kind of hotel rooms in the same location, a week apart, they're going to be completely different because the people are completely different no matter what. And the dress, the bride, the flowers, the groom, the suit, the groomsmen, the number of bridesmaids, the number of groomsmen, all of that are going to change. The family dynamic, the moms, what they want, heirlooms, like all of that changes every single wedding. So it's different, and yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but but I just get into a bit of a zone,
naturally, I guess, with like that much years doing it, I have this kind of thing, and my dad has it too. He's an entrepreneur, and he fantasizes about his restaurant, not to make money, because restaurants are money losing businesses. Like here, these restaurants, I mean, they're luxurious. They pay a shit ton of rent, and yeah, like in 5 years, most of them won't be here anymore. But for the flow and the passion of serving people and creating moments and living these experiences with people, they celebrate birthdays in restaurants, they celebrate magic moments. You're like in the business of experiences and magic and being there with those people. So first, my first question is, was that on purpose? Is that why you chose wedding photography? And the second question is, do you still feel that magic even now to this day, or you're kind of immunized and it's like, oh, just another wedding?
No, I don't think I think if it ever gets to it's just another wedding, I'll quit shooting. And I do want to reduce the number I'm shooting, because sometimes I feel like that either on the way there or on the way back that we're at the wedding. But what's funny is I didn't really ever want to get into wedding photography.
Okay.
It was kind of like I did it because it was somewhere I could get in and start making some money. Then I kind of fell in love with the idea of wedding photography. It was when I came down, when I was in Vancouver, I enjoyed it. I liked it. When I got here and it started providing me the kind of life that I wanted to live, and I became more grateful for it, that's when things kind of changed,
What funny things do we see at weddings? Because it's a sacred moment. It's two souls uniting together. You've talked to me last conversation we had about interesting things. Do sometimes thoughts come up in your head like, oh, these two are not gonna last, or this is a fucking mess, like these folks are just crazy, and like what goes on in your mind once at a wedding like that, and what kind of events do happen there?
I've only ever had one wedding that was cursed from his vows on. It was a funny wedding. It was a Quebecois people.
Really?
Yeah. And his vows were all about how he couldn't live without her. He completed her. It was like he took every cheesy movie line and put him in his vows. And you could almost just see her shoulders go down while he was saying it, And I don't know. I just felt like her energy just kind of left then, and it was
painful.
Yeah, it was sad. And her dad was a psychologist working at a university, I think it was, or a
Psychiatrist,
no, not a
psychologist,
psychiatrist. He was a psychology teacher of psychology, a professor of psychology.
PhD. Yeah.
Yes, I believe. And she was a Facebook friend of mine, and I think it was within 6 months later, she put up a post that she was in a new relationship.
Oh man!
And I remember the first or third comment somewhere there was someone wrote "already?" ? And I was like, oh, also at the wedding, she lit these they're paper lanterns,
Okay.
and you light them and you release them, and the idea is that they take your love away so that it will always come back, sort of thing, right? So it's symbolic of the love and relationship between the couple.
Yeah.
And she was lighting hers, and it got windy, and hers burnt up before she was even able to let it go. So I grabbed hers and handed her mine, and for some reason they gave me one. I was like, shouldn't I be taking photos? But whatever. And then another guest's one got caught in a palm tree, and it was one of the very first times I saw like security in Mexico like really worried, because this palm tree looked like it was going to catch on fire, and finally it went out. It was really quite funny. Well, it was funny afterwards.
Dramatic, yeah, in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment, watching this palm tree on fire, thinking, is the whole resort going to go up in fire? Like, we don't have hoses out on the beach. Like, what are we going to do? You know, like, we're going to lose all the palm trees on the beach? Like, so you're thinking this is not really that good. But the palm tree obviously carries a lot of water and didn't catch on fire. So anyhow, they went off. Hers burnt up, which, so the letting her love thing, whatever it symbolized, didn't progress. And then 6 months later, I swear it was within 6 months later, she...
6 months, man,
yeah.
That's so humiliating, especially on Facebook. Like, can't you wait a little bit more and do it a bit more subtly?
I had no idea, but I think... I don't know. I'm not going to judge, you know, because she's still a Facebook friend. He's still a Facebook friend as well.
Both Québécois?
Yeah.
The two?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure he is, yeah. And the new guy looked really nice. She has babies. They're married. Cool. She's happy. And then about 2 or 3 years later, I saw him going on a trip about self-discovery, about himself. And he was sharing a little more than he should on social media.
Yeah.
You know the type where it's like, you know, I feel for the guy. Like, too bad your ex-wife's father couldn't help you.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, it was. That would be the most encompassing weird sort of thing. And then otherwise, I get a lot of couples that, like, you know, message me. They now have kids. They want to do family photos, especially when I was in Vancouver. You know, I have couples that I've married whose kids, I think, are now graduating from high school.
So let's do the math here. How much total weddings have you done lifetime? Like 100, 200?
You know, I stopped counting around 500 because I think if you go over 500, it makes it sound like you've done too many.
But I'm just curious, how does that change a human? Because like I said, this is like a sacred union, and you see so many of these. How does that change a psyche to see like that much celebrations and humans getting drunk and dancing and having the time of their lives?
For us, it's a little bit, it's different because we see it as work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's what.
And we have a job to do, and we know what we need to do. Like, say, me and my team, yesterday presented 2 videographers and a photographer with me, so there's 4 of us. And I don't know, you just make do. You just keep going. There's no right or wrong to it. You know?
You're so focused in the work, but you do capture moments as well, and you must be smiling sometimes. Like, wow, man, that's a beautiful moment.
You know, I remember once I was walking onto a resort, and I was complaining in my head, and I walked out onto the lobby, and then you could see the main gardens, and there was this sort of fountain that went down the middle with these bridges that went across, and I stopped, and I was like, why am I complaining when this is where I work?
Oh man, that's... Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, it's like, yeah, I'm not in a cubicle, you know,
this is life.
Yeah, you know, and so life is a in a way, like, I'm a commercial artist, right? Life as a commercial artist is is not bad. It's good.
Not bad at all.
And I guess for me, though, the other thing too I enjoy is getting myself to the next stage business-wise. Like, I enjoy that part as well. And now that I'm getting older, I'm starting to pull back on the number of weddings, and I want to bring on associate photographers and train them and help them. Because like I said, there's a lot of people in that pro-amateur range that need help to become a pro. And I want to grab a few of those and build a business around them.
And how does that happen? What would be your plan? Because I've recruited a bunch of interns lately. I've recruited precisely 7, and I've fired 7 over the past few months. And that's been an interesting team in my business. How will you do that?
I don't know. I have 2 that I work with currently. I think that what I've changed up this time, like I've mentioned earlier, is that we're going to go truly authentic. So I'm asking them what they want to shoot and then sell them that way, rather than saying, hey, they'll train you in my style. It's more authentic, and people, I think, want to, they'll see that with different photographers, you get different styles. And if you go to someone and they say, oh, I can do anything, then you know that they're bullshitting you if you're a customer, right? So I think that will give us more people. I think that with the 3 of us, I already have enough to test the business. And then I think I'll learn as I move along. I'll make my mistakes. I'll fail. I don't really believe in failure, but whatever.
Yeah, failure are lessons, and I love the make it their idea, right? Like, let's not change their mentality. They must have something that burns inside them, and if they suggest it to you, well, let them try their approach at least and see what it does. I'm just curious, as per the profile of your 3 employees, I think, or associate, or whatever you want to call them, freelancers, are they from here, Cancun, or do you take them from Canada, US? Who are they? What is their profile, their age? What do they look like?
Well, the 3 the 2 others that are work with me, they're all similar age to me, a bit younger. They're all very experienced. They've all shot a lot of weddings, and I'm 100% confident if I send them out, they're going to deal with it. Because the thing with wedding photography is that, it's a product, but it's really an experience as well, right? People need to because
you can't miss the kiss when the putting the ring and moments like that. I guess
that's an easy thing to get, but what you need to do is you can't be standing in front of the parents while they're doing this either.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So it's,
details like that.
Yeah, so it is an experience, and also, like, we want them to be looking happy in their photographs, so we have to keep them happy.
So do you coach them? Do you tell them, like, hey,
it's their wedding? It's not like they come grumpy.
Yeah,
like they're happy already.
They're already happy.
It's just about not fucking up so they get unhappy.
Yeah. Or like, if they're posing too much for a picture and like smiling fake, do you tell them sometimes, or they're just like naturally happy throughout?
There's techniques for everything.
Okay, so you coach them a little bit sometime if needed.
Or a lot if needed.
All right, so those 2 persons, like, again, are they local? Are they freelancers?
Oh, yeah, by the way, everybody has to be local because immigration and work laws.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Or
flight difference.
Well, like,
would make sense.
If it's impossible to work in the United States without a green card, why should it be different here?
So they speak English, and did they go to university, or like, are they young?
I didn't ask.
Because I can picture, a young photographer with its own ideologies, a younger person on Instagram a lot of times. But like you said, they need to have experience for weddings, so they must have already done them in the past.
Well, give or take, I would love to grab somebody who has very little experience, but lots of passion.
And how do you teach them on the spot? How does that work?
We can bring them to some weddings. I can teach them. We get them some models. We could work it. They could do a lot of selects. They would figure it out.
So to get an idea, let's say I'm your intern. At what time does the wedding start? Is it always at one place, or it's any hotel?
It's all over.
All right, any hotel. At what time does a wedding start? Like 3 p.m.?
Depends on the sunset time. It depends on what time they're able to get the ceremony done at the resort. So it's not really something I can control.
And most of the time, like, what would you say? 3 p.m., 1 p.m., or?
No, it depends on the time of year. So now we're getting into, right now the sun is setting at 7 o'clock, 7:30, so 5 o'clock. And in the winter, in December, it sets at 6 o'clock, so you're looking at closer to 4 o'clock. And then
So
sometimes
it's late. It's very late. I didn't know.
Yeah, well, because you don't want to be out in full clothing much before that.
True. The sun. And,
you're not gonna, like a 1 o'clock ceremony time is very hot.
Yeah, like right now it's perfect. You know, it's 6:30 p.m. But before that was crazy. Like
it's a 7:15 sunset. Yeah.
Yeah, 7:15 sunset. And okay, so I arrive on the spot, and then what happens during wedding? I haven't been to any wedding yet. Actually, I've been to Vegas for my buddy's, whatever they call that, a bachelor's party, and he's gonna get wed in a month in Canada. That's why I'm coming back. One reason. So I'm gonna experience my first wedding. What happens during the wedding? Is there like a ceremony before and the ring, or like how does that happen?
No, the guys get ready. Well, for guys, we shower, get ready, have a drink, go to the ceremony, welcome people to the ceremony, and then the ceremony happens.
Is it only for the guy's side, or and do you have a woman for the woman's side? I guess you're on the guy's side.
Or no, I'm usually on the women's side.
Okay.
So yeah, part of my job is watching women dress. So it's one of those things. It's different, right? You're at a wedding, and it's we leave the room when they're actually, in their underwear and stuff. If they want us to, or we stay there. It doesn't matter to us, because like say that's where it really becomes a job. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
But also it's about them being comfortable, right? It's not about me. I don't care. So yeah, it's you usually do the preparation ahead of time. Women tend to have a whole lot more preparation than men. Women, and there's all the details.
And you take photos of that,
Yep.
the preparation.
Yeah, preparation, the dress, the shoes, other details that they might have, and then after that we go to the ceremony as well. And you have the ceremony, then usually there's family photos afterwards. Then we usually do photos with the couple and stuff. Here we do photos afterwards for about an hour, and then go to the reception. And then the reception, you have your first dances, and then party and dinner and speeches.
Okay, that gives me a better picture. How does one grow a wedding photography business other than hiring great photographers and promoting it? Like, what's your plan in the next 5 years? Where do you want to take your business?
Well, it's much more complicated than what you just mentioned, because it's an interesting market. Because one, it's all ever changing because you're always getting new clients. Where do I want to take my business in the next 5 years? I'd like to have 4 or 5 photographers.
Okay.
And I think that would be enough. I don't really want to build it much more than that.
Okay.
I kind of aspire to actually build a different business as well, something that's not in the wedding business. I think COVID taught me that having one revenue stream is not enough these days. So I hope to build this one well. Say 4 photographers and hopefully 3 or 4 videographers as well.
Okay.
Probably 2 or 3 people in support staff.
Okay.
And then editors as well, I guess. So probably, for that many photographers, my guess is 2, 3 editors, and then probably 4 support staff total.
Okay.
And then that would give me a life.
Yeah, that's always appreciated. Time freedom, that's why we got in the game in the first place, right? So
hopefully, yeah.
And on the sales and marketing side, do you want to hire someone, or do you want to keep on with that consultant?
Well, we're sticking with the consultant for some time. It's a program. It's a consultant that does basically it's like a 90 to 120 day sort of rebranding strategy, and so we're going to do that and see how it goes. But a lot of it's based off the principles I already use, and I already know work. So it's just about refining and redoing the program that I already know works post-COVID. So just redoing my tests, redoing everything. It's a different market. People are a little different, but it's really the same thing.
What are you seeing on the technology side in your field? Because I know of Snapper, for example, which was a somewhat exciting company allowing you to pick photographers for cheap and instantly, like Uber. And not only for cheap, they have luxury too. I guess it's a different market, but what do you see in your own market in terms of technology and where it's going?
It's a good question, actually. I think when you're hiring an artist, you're hiring something else, right? You're hiring that je ne sais quoi. You're hiring a luxury experience,
Exclusivity.
And I think that that's the market I want to stay in. You know, like
Boutique, tailored experience.
yeah, it's like I want to sell Mercedes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, Lamborghini is more.
No,
Mercedes,
no.
there's too much.
But here, I think people want a Mercedes.
Okay.
If we were in Saint Martin, or if we were in, like Dubai, then yeah, like
Okay.
it's Maseratis
I
and
get your point.
Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
There's Mercedes, or Lamborghinis and Maseratis would be your low end,
You
right?
can still be an SLS though.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're a high-end Mercedes, whereas you're saying the industry's going towards Ladas and all these Asian cars, the bricks and stuff that we see in this country that nobody sees in Canada, the US, or whatever. Like we see cars that like have weird ass names that are made in China. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, don't be in one of those if you get in an accident. Like,
Yeah.
but is that the way the market's going? It's like, no, I don't think so. People are still gonna, and I think your wedding photos for this now generation, for the millennials, they're the only ones that probably the fourth generation where they have photos. So they'll have photos, their parents will have photos, their grandparents will have photos, and their great-grandparents will have wedding photos, right? And maybe their great-great-grandparents will have wedding photos. Great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents are probably the only photos they have of them are military and wedding, right? So there's something about that tradition and about fulfilling that tradition properly that I think builds in a necessity for luxury.
I can see on my side also that like our generation, well, the greatest value probably that I'd get from your photos is posting them on my Insta. I'm a bit different as well because my Insta is used for business too, and I want to grow my subscriber base. And yeah, even share these beautiful moments with my audience because they've become more than my subscribers. They're like my friends, and I can see the reels also. TikTok, yeah, sure. If you use it personally, it's very much polluting, but for business can be interesting. Anyway, I can see that. I can see VR, so like videography for VR and reliving these moments. Like if I was in
this I could see changing in the future for video. Yeah. Is there's going to be some sort of VR experience.
Or drone. I mean, drone has been frigging huge in the last few years. Do you do drones?
Yeah. Drone has been around for a while. The biggest problem we have with drone is 1, the wind, 2, the resorts, 3, the resorts, 4, the resorts.
But they don't allow them.
Come on, when you're on vacation, you don't want to look out your window and see a freaking drone.
Yeah, I mean, there's silent one, but also there's the airport.
It's not about silent. It's about the resort's liability. Like you're shagging or you're naked in your room, you look out and you see a drone. You're like. And you're at a resort here. Are you going to be happy about that?
Yeah, no. Okay, I can see the use case for that.
Then the resort has to deal with that. It's easier for the resort just to say, no drones, no problems.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, or on the beach, the beach is kind of public property, but yeah.
It is public property, and yeah.
I think people are annoyed by that, yeah. You have a point, it's like the Google Glass whole thing.
It's... Thank you. Drones are great, and the reality is it's not wedding photographers flying drones in front of windows, and if they are, they're not facing them at the window; they're facing them somewhere else, and no one cares. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's about reducing liability and problems.
I can also see potentially like NFTs and blockchain, just to authentify a moment somehow. As more technology is prominent, for example, deep fakes, like people will be able to invent fake weddings, online, stuff like that. And yeah, I can see the potential use case for that. Anyway, technology is very exciting for me, and I've always been fascinated by it. I still want to cover a couple of things with you. More on the personal side, I always like talking to the person behind the entrepreneur, because most people need to understand that we built these characters and we built these humans first, and then that human built the business. And in most of our case, the business is us.
If I may, I don't think that's the way it works.
Well,
maybe I have more gray hair than you, but here's how it works.
Tell me.
We build a person, the person builds a business, the business destroys the person, and the person learns and builds the business properly.
Well, if you mean destroys...
I think businesses are a very good way to work at self-development, because
Yeah, I
your
agree.
business is not going to be any better than you. You basically, someone once told me, you don't have a business problem, you have a personal problem. It's not until you can overcome that
For
that
sure.
you can be successful.
Yeah, if you mean destroyed by challenges, I call it like enlightenment through business and startups in my case. So, yeah, we share the same philosophy in that case. But okay, let's take it that way. First, like, who was the dean before he was an entrepreneur? And then how did the business build the actual dean that I have in front of me?
Well, I was a pharmaceutical rep before, so I was probably pretty cocky, um overly confident,
Making good money,
fairly good. Nothing compared to running your own business, running it well.
for sure.
But you can also go the opposite way. Um, I don't know how to describe that person before. I've never thought of it, to be honest with you. I always think of who I am now and deconstructing that in an attempt to see what I am blocking in my life, you know. And I find that process fascinating. You know, I think that we can develop, when we're developing businesses, like especially in the micro level, or it's just a small business run by one or two people. I think that the self development, that's the right word for it, is incredibly important. I think that that is the key to taking your business to the next level. You know, because you'll find where you're blocking yourself from doing things. You know, where you're almost like where your self sabotage is.
For sure.
You know, and even self sabotage isn't the right word for it, because I can't remember who it was.
Getting in your own way, I'd say, and
Yeah, but you think about it. Self sabotage is a part of your body or an emotions that when you go to do something, it's stopping you from doing
because
it.
it's scared, it's traumatized.
It's scared. Yeah, it's traumatized because it thinks if you do that, you're going to die.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Or, you know, so it might be around money where you're like, oh, I need to make this much money. And there's a part of you is like, no, don't do that, because then we don't know the answer to because.
Just being stressed
But-
out about money. Will I be able to make it next month, next year? Like,
Or maybe when you grew up, your parents, like I grew up in a union family, and I remember like this distrust and hate for management people,
Really?
and also sort of for money, right?
Okay.
Not entirely, but I just remember sort of, and I wouldn't even say it came from my parents as much as it came from my community.
yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to. I'm not throwing my parents under the bus. They did an amazing job.
Yeah,
I'm
same
incredibly independent. I thank my mother every day for that.
I mean, you
Not
became an
to her
entrepreneur,
face,
so
it's a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. So obviously, they did
They did
a
a good job.
fantastic job.
yeah.
So I don't know where I was going with that, but they.
Well, how do you get better? You know, because there's the past dean and there's the
Yeah.
actual dean, the self-help. You're better every day. You told me you did hits before coming here.
Yeah.
That's one part of your success.
Yeah, exercise is
Yeah.
incredibly important. But I think it was talking about self-sabotage, and I'd like
Yeah,
to go back to that.
self-sabotage.
So I think that if you can identify what emotions are happening when you're self-sabotaging
Thoughts,
yourself,
yeah.
then you're able to go through it. And it's not about hating that thing or trying to push through it, because you're just going to have to push through all the time. It's about understanding it and saying, how can we use that energy in a productive way,
Yeah,
or in a
sure.
way that puts me towards my goals, you know? And having those goals written down, having those goals in a place where you kind of look through them regularly, you know, and you're measuring what you define as success, which
For
could
sure.
be different. You know, like you said, your father's success is like making sure people enjoy themselves at the restaurant and stuff, right? It's more important than the finances for him, you know. And usually, those altruistic goals tend to keep people motivated because there's purpose in them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, being generous, giving, and stuff like that. And yeah, to self-sabotage, I mean, I've done, since the past few years, I've done so much work. You know, I'm carving a piece of art day by day, and lots of introspection, lots of self-questions, lots of keeping track of my thoughts. You know, what I think, how do I feel, how does that thought make me feel? And every time I dig far enough, I discover something about my childhood, about being rejected in some situation, or about being bullied in another. And fact is, I wasn't rejected and bullied much. I cannot imagine other people that for real every day suffered through that. And I think that that kind of brings answers. And then once you have that answer, kind of, you need to get to work and kind of fix that and realize that, you can fix that through, in my case, been meditation, yeah, sports, discipline, journaling. I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that is journaling. How do you deal with that? How do you improve yourself in those situations?
I meditate for about well, now I'm back to an hour, and I plan on going probably to 2 hours
That is
every
big.
morning. Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
And I started with 5 minutes. So to me, meditating to an hour a day is like training for a marathon. It's
Literally.
it's not what
Training for Vipassana.
Yeah, and it's not. It's perfectly fine to go run running a 10K is keeping yourself in really good shape. Running a 5K is keeping yourself in shape. Going for a walk around the block is keeping yourself mobile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the idea that, like, if I don't want people to think, oh, he meditates for an hour a day or two, and he's going to 2, I'll never get there. Yeah, you won't. Just kind of like you're not going to be an ultra-thon runner in a year if you're a couch potato and relatively heavy and your knees will blow out if you ran 20 miles tomorrow anyhow. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like, I worked my way up to it in the last probably 20 years. And yeah, now I sit every morning at least an hour. And I sit there. It's funny because there's times when I sit down and suddenly the first thing that comes to mind is grab your journal.
Yeah.
And
I had that too.
So that, or sometimes it's grab your day timer. It's like, I know what I need to do today is going to come out.
Your day timer?
Yeah. So because I know
What is this?
But just for me, I'm old enough that I keep everything on a list in a book.
Okay.
Yeah, of what I'm going to do the next
Okay,
day
good.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Your
I just
schedule,
keep
your
lists.
calendar.
Yeah, kind of. I have an online one as well.
Okay.
Meeting schedules online and stuff. But this schedule is more. It's whatever. It's just what I'm going to do. So I sit. Sometimes I just know that, and it comes up. Write it down. Sit. And just go back into that space of nothingness, and just sit there and be the consciousness that watches.
I wrestle with that a lot during my Vipassana retreat. I've done various retreats, 3 days, 10 days, darkroom retreat, and it was a challenge during my 10 days being the OCD guy that I am, because psychologists teach that in case of OCD people to get what is in there on paper so that you don't lose it. And frankly, I had various insights with time. Are they like game-changing insights? Some of them, but I think sometimes you need to wait. Is it better to get out of my meditation and take that note, or to get deeper, get calmer, and get the physiological effects of my meditation? So I guess it's an equilibrium between both. So to be honest, like, there's so much going on in my life that I don't have much memories, but I was planning to write a book about it, because I took a bunch of notes of how I was feeling. But what I can tell you is that, yeah, definitely, I mean, Day 7 was a struggle. It was like, man, when is this gonna end? Like, I want to get back to my old life. I want to see my wife. I want to hug her. I want to go to the restaurant. I want to eat the food that I want and talk to people, because one of my purpose in life is to talk to people, which is why we're here today. So, yeah, that's how I felt, man. Are you thinking to do one, or?
Oh, I did one.
You did one? Where?
Yeah, I did one in Thailand, and about day 3, my brain went silent.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
You're the lucky one.
Well, not necessarily, because on day 4 I got dengue fever, and on day 5 I was gone. But I remember the feeling, and I can only describe it as like, so the guy who was running it he said, well, how are you doing? I said, much better. I said, how are you feeling? And I started to cry immediately. I just broke down in tears. It's like, what's happening? I'm like, I finally feel like me. Like, all the shit is gone,
Yeah.
and it's just me here, you know. And it was so nice. It was so amazingly nice. It was just this. If you were to put words to it, would give it something that, like, you can't call it joy, you can't call it gratitude, you can't, because it doesn't work. You can only just say that it was. You know, you just to be just pure consciousness and not have your brain going over and over again. And it's interesting because I fought for the first 3 days. And I was so exhausted. I was like, every thought that came up, jump on it like a fucking, you know, like those little things in the circus that come up and smash down.
Yeah.
I was like that with them. And then I was like,
Mold.
I got so tired. I'm like, I'm just gonna give up.
Fuck, yeah.
I'm just gonna give up. You know, forget it. Like, just in my head, I'm just gonna give up trying to stop thinking about thoughts. And I'd be like, oh, whatever, there's another fucking thought. There's another thought. And then I was doing walking meditation.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I was doing walking meditation. I was like, wait a minute. I don't even remember the last time I was thinking. And I was like, wow. And then that lasted until I had dengue fever, essentially. And then I was meditating and I almost passed out. Standing meditation. I almost hit the ground. And then I thought something's wrong with the body. And then. So, but that feeling is incredible. And it's even now now I meditate and it's different. I still get a lot more thoughts. I don't go to that space because I think it would take me a couple of days to get there.
Did the retreat stayed with you, like in some shape and forms? That you
really.
No?
This was a long time ago. This was before anybody even knew what the fuck was. Like this was 2002.
Okay, yeah. It's
20 years ago now. Nobody knew what the fuck that aspect. Nobody was doing this stuff, you know.
You have a very steady practice, 1 hour a day is, man, that's very good. Like it's my practice sucks nowadays, and I need to improve on that. And
well, you know, they say when the last bit of sleep, your brain is putting back together all of your memories and reassociating them, and that's apparently when neuroplasticity really happens. Mm-hmm. And the spiritual people here, especially, will say, if you really want to meditate, you wake up at 4 in the morning and you meditate then. And they said that's when you get, like, you know, just sit there and meditate then. That's when you're going to get it. And I think it's because your body goes into that sort of thing, you know. And there's a couple times where I woke up at 4 in the morning and couldn't sleep and decided to meditate, and just had out-of-body experiences, like crazy, where it's just like I'm sitting there watching myself sleep, but I'm not asleep yet.
Yeah. Lucid dreaming, have you done some of that? Or
I haven't been able to do that yet.
Same here. Well, at some points I remember I could control some of my dreams and go to places where I am. When I wake up in the night, I try to pick up on my dreams, so where I left them, and that tends to work also. Makes me more creative as well. I'm a very creative person. We talked about your spiritual life, you know, the habits that brought you to be a great entrepreneur and to forge potentially a great business. Tell us a bit more about the sports that you do, the physical activity to maintain your body. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I've always done something. I started with hockey when I was a kid, then I went cycling, went through a bunch of other sports, I guess, yoga for quite a while. And now, in COVID, I got into HIIT exercises and really liked it. And then found them a little too heavy because I'm on the other side of 45 and need to watch that I don't overly extend my cartilage too much. So I do low impact and a little bit of high impact HIIT exercises, and then a lot of stretching, a lot of mobility stretching, hips, shoulders. You know, I have a goal to wipe my ass when I'm 100.
Wipe your ass when that's
it's quite a movement.
It's quite a movement, and not to have someone doing that task, a poor someone.
Yeah, exactly. Because like when you think about it, you talk to an 80-year-old, or
Dude, I
a
have
90-year-old.
trouble like myself, especially after the gym.
Yeah, you
I'm
have
so
trouble.
not flexible with my back. I have a huge back, like genetically. So
Yeah. It is actually a mobility thing. That and I want to be able to do a full squat, like where I put my
Ass on the
ground
Yeah.
and then stand straight up
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I'm like 80.
can you do that now?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's always good. Feels good also to stretch the hip. Super important.
Yeah.
I want to close this off because we've got a couple minutes left before our order comes in. So we talked about some habits that you practice today. What lessons have your business taught you over the year? What challenges did it put in your face, and how did that make you a better human?
Oh, I would say COVID was incredibly interesting for me because from the business perspective, I've never had such confidence watching something implode. Like normally when businesses go under, it's the entrepreneur's fault, at least in my position. It was always my fault and I'm trying to figure out why it's going under and I have anxiety about it. This one, it was like totally out of my control, nothing I could do, and I needed money to survive. And as a result, I raised $15,000 US by writing my customers saying, hey, my neighbor's probably not going to have food because they're poor, and these are the people that work at the resorts, and your servers, your gardeners, your that. They sent me, all told, all my customer base sent me $15,000, and we gave out 2,500, 3,000 food hampers to people during COVID at the very start while everything was locked down. And so it was a drop in the bucket to help people to get through. So that was kind of cool. And then after that, just watching things slowly come back on. But it was weird to have this confidence. And when I thought, why am I so confident about this? And it's like, the immediate answer came to my head, because I've been here before. Because of my failures before, built up enough confidence that I know that if I lose it all, it's fine. It's like, I'll make it back, And
Hold a tent on the beach and live there.
Yeah, well, whatever. We'll figure it out. The house is paid for in full, so no one's kicking me out, right? So it's nice, It was a different feeling, and the only reason I had that feeling is because I'd failed before.
Okay.
Probably more than once, And
I hope so.
yeah, and I think that's the thing is I want to put out there to people is like know where your rock bottom is and be happy you have one, because I know people who at the age of 45 live with their parents, and their parents have always helped them out, and these people live with so much anxiety about the world because they don't know where their rock bottom is.
Correct.
Whereas
Always have that safety net, right?
yeah, whereas my mother changed my room when I was, between grade 11 and 12. So in grade 12 in Canada, after that you go to university.
Yeah.
In the summer of grade 11 going into grade 12, my father and I went on a fishing trip, a guy's fishing trip. When it came, my mother said, I'm going to change your room around when you're gone. I thought I'd come back, my bed would be on the other side, whatever. She just wants to stay busy. She misses me, I'll go, right? No, I came back. She had repainted the place and would put up flower wallpaper. And I walk in, I'm like, what did you do to my room? She says, well, it's going to be the guest room when you leave anyhow. And it's like, she's always had this, like, you're going to be independent, Yeah, it was a little embarrassing living, like your grade 12 year with wallpaper. Yeah, flower wallpaper on your wall, but but my mom was always that way. She was always like, get out of the house and figure it out yourself.
Okay, interesting.
And as a result, like, that attitude has always helped me move on with my life, made me like who I am today. And I think that, and those failures I had in business made it so that I had no anxiety during COVID. Like, I was so like, this is going to end, and when it does, we'll figure it out.
So there's a recession, whatever you want to make about that word.
Yeah.
What would you tell, to conclude this podcast, what would you tell people that are going through that recession or that want to start business businesses during this recession, what would you give them as advice?
Okay, so I'm old enough to have lived the recession in the 90s.
Okay.
And saw it in the 80s, but I was too young to remember exactly what it was. In the 90s, I was selling cars for Ford Lincoln, Mercury, and I remember there's a Chrysler dealership nearby that was selling twice as many.
Okay.
And I remember also a new guy came in to sell cars, and we were all selling like 2 to 3 a month, and I think he sold 10 in the first month.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I would say the cream always rises to the top,
Always.
And sometimes when times are too good, this recession is gonna breed opportunity exactly the opposite way opportunity was bred during COVID.
Okay.
Because in COVID we had lots of money, everyone had things, and there's lots of opportunity. This is going to be the opposite, where we're going to have less things, and people are going to, be more concerned about, like, it's just going to be, it's going to be kind of the opposite. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, no injections of cash, right? Like more like you're left out by your own. Is that it?
There's going to be a lot of opportunity in there.
Okay.
A lot. And, because people don't really settle for less. Like we're this exponentially growing cancer on this earth, right?
Correct.
So, because cancer, we grow similar to cancer cells,
right?
We're exponential in our growth, right? And and in a way, this reckoning of bringing us back could be an incredibly good thing, and it could make us, really evaluate what we do, who we are, and all I see is opportunity. When I see the recession coming, I see it as opportunity because, they printed way too much money during COVID, and as a result, that's going to cause inflation.
So advice for entrepreneurs would be like open your eyes for opportunities. Is that it?
Yeah, and be ready to really. The other thing I should say is I'm dyslexic, so I think laterally on everything, right? So just be ready to think outside your box.
Okay.
Don't get ready to change much quicker and look for ways to make people and the services or product you're giving to people, get it to them in a way that they can afford.
Okay.
There's probably for a little while until wages go up, people are going to have less.
For sure.
Yeah. And wages will go up. They'll go up slowly.
To adapt to a new reality, and also I think changing the relationship to change. People need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Do hits, do these long ass meditations, throw yourself in a vipassana. People can learn these things.
Yeah. And I think let's think about it. When you think about it, like how do salaries really go up? And salaries really go up when people change jobs, because you don't really get a good raise from your current boss. I hate to say that as an entrepreneur.
True.
Right? Like people change jobs to get heavy raises. You don't get it any other way unless you tell them you're leaving and they say, "Oh, we're going to create a new department for you. Go over there." So until you see that in enough changes, that's when things will come around. The other thing to remember with the recession, luxury brands always do well. Sure. People who have money always have money.
But why did Rolex went into bankruptcy during COVID? Do you know? Or
no idea. Didn't even know that happened.
Probably mismanagement, but I do agree with you. I mean, the rich keeps getting richer, right? And I mean, the Louis Vuitton store, you see a lot of Chinese folks in there, and I mean, they just have it.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like someone with $1 billion who loses 10% doesn't change his purchasing habits.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And someone with $100 million who loses 20%, they still don't really change their purchasing habits.
No.
Someone who makes $100,000 a year and loses 20%, they change their buying habits.
Starts being something significant.
Because they no longer are putting anything away.
Yeah, and I think we're in Cancun right now, both of us, we've experienced that different lifestyle. I would encourage people to seek out these different lifestyles and go live in other countries that are cheaper, get a rent that is lower than, live under your means until you can afford it and until you can bow out for not having a better term than that, and make good income, and obviously try to start a business. I think both of us will agree with that lifestyle. Yes, some people might have a significant disadvantage, but I would encourage people to go for that higher freedom.
Yeah, I don't like giving too much advice to other people, but if I could give advice to the 20-year-old me, and there's only one thing that would stick, I would say take 10% of everything you earn and put it into a savings account, just put it into a index fund.
For mental safety, or to invest it in something?
Just to invest in it so that becomes your nest egg, so that when shit hits the fan and it's all over with and you've lost your business, you have that.
Okay.
If
Dean,
that happens.
Yeah, thank you so much for today. It's been
it's my pleasure,
wonderful.
Mate. Thank you.
Where can people find you out? Where can people?
Well, you can find me at deansandersonweddings.com. That's my photography business. That's the thing that's rolling right now.
Okay.
And then hopefully, like I say, I'm doing this for the next 90 to 120 days of building that. And then after that, I'm going to start another business as well, a tour company here.
Cool. We'll talk about that one later on, I guess.
For sure.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, man.
Awesome. Thank you.